Alright, what's up guys? Happy New Year. Today I'm making a video responding to the comments and the topics discussed in the last video I made, which is all about how fasting and prayer proves the existence of God. So if you guys want to go watch that before listening to this, you don't have to, but it might, and read some of those comments as well, it might help you maybe understand the background of this video. Otherwise, this video is going to be about how evolution and consciousness prove the existence of God. This is stuff that I think, stuff that I believe, and it's also an article that I have. I'm basically just going to be reading it out loud to you guys, and then obviously talking about it in between or after, giving more ideas, diving more in depth. If you guys would like to read this, you can check the description below. It's my Substack. It's free. You guys can subscribe for more topics like this related to this kind of stuff. Excuse the plane, but I'm just gonna start out, okay? In my most recent video, I discussed how consciousness proves the existence of God and mentioned how fasting and prayer show that. Many of the viewers enjoyed the video, however, some viewers left some very insightful and profound questions countering some of the claims I made. Many of the counterclaims to the video revolved around the idea that consciousness is merely an evolved mechanism, which is something I claimed may not be true. So in this video, I will investigate how evolution and the idea that consciousness is an evolved mechanism doesn't disprove God, but instead, in fact, proves God. So first, we need to define terms, and specifically the evolutionary terms that we're going to be using, because we're going to be talking a lot about evolution today. So if we were to define what is most real, or what is most true, from a Darwin mindset, would it not be that which keeps us alive? That which evolution selects and strives forward? Would that not be the thing considered most true? You see, Darwin's evolutionary theory implies that what we perceive as true is shaped by its utility for survival and reproduction, suggesting that truth serves life. Now, Nietzsche has a similar saying. He says that Nietzsche said truth serves life. And Darwin said, you can't define truth in any other way than that which serves life. So Nietzsche argued that truth is subordinate to life, created and maintained to serve human needs and flourishing, while Darwin's evolutionary theory implies that what we perceive as true is shaped by its utility for survival and reproduction, suggesting that truth, in an adaptive sense, serves life. So I hope that kind of makes sense here, because we're going to be diving into what's true and what's not in regards to evolution and consciousness, and why biblical terms may be deemed true, certain things may be deemed true. It's important to understand from that evolutionary perspective that truth in an adaptive sense serves life. That what is most true must serve life by definition, right? It must be the most real or closest to reality thing, right? So let's dive into this. In science, in the realm of evolution, we often claim that God, or belief in a higher power, is merely an evolved trait developed to keep us alive. Yet, given the prior definition, doesn't this idea prove God? By the theory of evolution, does this not imply that the belief in God and or a higher power is rooted in something fundamental about the nature of our universe, about the nature in which evolution tries to mold? I want to address some of the comments and patterns of critique from the last video that is deeply related to what I'm about to move on forward with. One of the main criticisms I saw was that consciousness, with its ability to garden free will and belief in a higher power, is actually an evolved mechanism, merely to fulfill our instinctual motives and our evolutionary purposes. That's simply all it is. However, this counterclaim has been made countless times. I mentioned it in the beginning of the last video, and my issues with it. This was Nietzsche's famous argument against philosophers and philosophy and religion in Beyond Good and Evil, that each philosopher in the proposed philosophy was merely a fulfillment of that individual's or that person's survival and instinctual motives, that the conscious actions and beliefs we take or have are merely and purely driven by instinct alone. But to me, the foundation of this belief, which also aligns with the idea that consciousness is merely evolved, forgets to think about two things. First is the idea of free will. If you believe that everything we do, our conscious choices, our refusal to eat, to abstain from sex, or immoral actions such as committing murder, is simply an act of fulfilling our evolutionary motives and needs, then I'm sorry to tell you that you do not believe in free will. You believe that every action we take has an instinctual motive, and underlying all of our actions and beliefs is an evolutionary motive. You believe in this predetermined destiny, in this predetermined outcome, that you must act based on how you are born, and you cannot change that because it's to fulfill evolution. However, if you believe you can consciously make decisions or choices that go against your natural desires, such as refusing to partake in sex or having offspring, refusing to commit murder when you want to, or refusing to eat despite extreme hunger, etc., then I'm glad to tell you that you do believe in free will. You believe you can have or do create the outcome. The ability to choose between these views itself demonstrates free will, which then might imply your ability to go against evolution. The second thing this belief forgets to mention is this. I mentioned in the last video that there were no evolutionary benefits to committing murder, harming innocent children, refusing to sleep, eat, etc. And many of the people replied that there definitely are, such as protection from tribal warfare or danger, children needing food rather than the adults, etc. But what these people seemed to miss, and what I ceased to mention, was the idea of aiming evolutionary upward or downward. So by aiming upward, I just mean choices that enhance life, that progress and cause survival. Actions that align with growth and continuation. All things that evolution claims to uphold. So if I say something regarding aiming upward, it means it's evolved. In a Darwin sense, this thing must be true because evolution only aims upward, right? It only causes growth and continuation. It only enhances life. It only tries and survives, right? That's what evolution does. It essentially tries to aim up, right? And by aiming downward, I mean choices that go against life, progress, growth, and continuation of the species. Things that go against the claims of evolution. So in a Darwinistic mindset, if we are bound by evolutionary motives to forever aim upward, to enhance life, progress, survive, because that is what evolution is, then the ability to aim downward, to act against this, or even try and prevent this, must imply that we are beyond evolutionary motives and actions, which implies a free will and a free mind. Let's give an example, one that one of you guys mentioned in the comments. It is true that we can murder each other, and there is an evolutionary benefit to that. I agree. I think we all agree. However, is this benefit purely evolutionarily speaking, designed to aim upward or downward? To continue the survival of the species or to limit and reduce it? For example, if we evolved the capacity to kill in regards to protection and we were prone to other tribes and animals, which would essentially be evolving to aim upward, right? To still protect ourselves. Does this evolutionarily evolved ability to kill not imply an evolutionary motive to keep the species alive? Obviously, I think we can both agree on this. But the idea we can kill each other out of protection implies the evolutionary desire to stay alive, to keep living, to aim up, which we are obviously bound by due to evolutionary laws. However, here is where this belief crumbles. Here is where I think I'm at least trying to put my own input or stuff that I've learned to your guys' comments, that it's not merely just evolution. It's not just we got consciousness and everything we do is off of our instincts. For example, let's examine how the ability to choose downward, to aim downward, plays out in history's darkest moments. What is the survival benefit or evolutionary benefit of genocide, such as the Holocaust or gulags? What is the survival evolutionary benefit of murdering and torturing innocent and young children, or even killing your own children? These actions, these conscious choices, don't aim upward. They are not the same evolved traits of protection that originated with the desire to aim up, with regarding to protection from tribes or regarding from protections from animals. It's not the same thing. They don't equate to trying to keep one's tribe alive when under attack, so the species or animals continue to live. Instead, they aim downward. They imply free will, a mind that can interact with evolution and choose to aim upward or downward, to continue with evolution or to go against it. Some people in the comments argued or might argue that these atrocities like just stem from maladaptive or incorrect tribalism, but these actions go beyond mere survival instincts. They contradict the goal of life's continuation, which is what evolution does. Like, okay, yes, it might be true that we evolved, with the capacity to kill because we wanted to, deal with tribes or danger or whatever. But that is to continue the species. The idea that you can completely just obliterate the species, right? That goes against life's continuation, the goal of evolution. So where do you draw this line? Where do you draw the line between just evolution and a genuine moral order, a mind, a logos, a conscious being in the universe, right? There's a big difference between killing out of self-defense and genocide. So in short, if what is true is what keeps us alive, if every action and motive we have and do is designed to keep us alive and further our species, how can something as tragic and negative, aiming downward against evolution, such as these horrific things described, even be considered merely just an evolved trait, evolved evolution? How can it just be considered evolution, the ability to be conscious and do decisions like that? If we were only designed to aim upward to further our species and survive, or merely just evolving out of evolution, we wouldn't have this ability or simply wouldn't exploit or do such things. Therefore, the very fact that we can aim downward, the fact that we can commit genocide, implies an ability to step outside of evolution, which then must imply free will and a free mind. Which then, I'm going to make a huge leap here, and I'm going to explain it in future videos and essays, and even in this video, I'm going to explain it, dive into it a little bit. But the ability, or the fact that it implies a free will and free mind, then implies consciousness. Therefore, God. Let me explain. The evolutionary claims and biblical claims dovetail perfectly. I do believe we are bound by evolutionary laws. I believe this. But I believe this in a different sense than the modern mind. I believe that without acknowledging one's own consciousness, without prayer, fasting, and practicing these conscious choices and decisions, you just fall into your natural blueprint and state. You just fall into the natural evolutionary desires that we have had and that animals and things have, right? You become your evolutionary fulfillment. You operate on your whims and mere impulses because you have nothing higher than your desires and your evolutionary impulses. You are purely instinctual. And this is where the problems for me arise. Or just, this is where the problems arise in general, not for me. That if you do not know God, you use this consciousness, or perhaps lack of thereof, to destroy, to destruct, perhaps to commit genocides and murder, to exploit people, women, and chase power. You are purely an animal with your instincts and evolutionary desires at your pinnacle, right? This is why there is a biblical insistence to walk with God, to build a relationship with this consciousness, which is what my previous video was about, right? And you can watch that in here or in the description, right? You can see what I'm talking about on how to build that relationship with that consciousness, how fasting and prayer, participating in those conscious-like decisions, the fact that we are conscious and the universe is the only other thing which creates, and that we are the only other thing in the universe that also can create, implies that there is a relational aspect there. So most of the habits and recommended actions regarding building relationship with God or consciousness involve these conscious choices and meditations, such as prayer, fasting, control of desires, etc. But I will admit, this brings forth a question. Someone asked me in the comments, and I'm going to quote word for word here, okay? If consciousness isn't evolved, but we still assume that evolution is correct, does your thinking imply that at some point God decided to gift human beings consciousness once they became sufficiently human and not like other species, such as an ape? My answer, that's the end quote, okay? My answer would be yes, but not in the simplistic sense of a man in the sky with a beard and he just waves his hand and we've got consciousness. Not this, modern story, like, I don't know how to explain it. Not this modern view of what it just being like gifted to us, okay? I'm gonna kind of slowly describe this. If we are made in God's image, and what is considered most true is that which keeps us alive, or gets selected for natural selection, then evolving with consciousness is the step in evolution that gave humans the likeness and image of God, being able to create and interact with the order and logos of the universe, being able to make conscious choices or creations and order, just like the logos, just like the consciousness of this universe, right? In this sense, consciousness is both an evolutionary development and a divine gift. It is the moment in evolution when humans stepped into this likeness of God, into this likeness of conscious creation. There is nothing else in this universe that can create, that brings forth life or brings forth creation like the universe and humans, right? So this is a relational aspect. We share that same thing. We are made in that image. We share that likeness. So in some fundamental sense, yes, God at one point gifted consciousness through this process of evolution, but it is not merely a consequence of evolution. Because if it was, we wouldn't have the ability to go against evolution. It is through consciousness that we can walk with God, participate in the logos, and aim upward in ways no other species or animals can. This is why prayer, fasting, and other conscious practices were once emphasized so much, and why I emphasized them in the last video. They aren't just religious rituals or fairy tales. They are acts that align oneself with the divine, with that relationship that the conscious being of the universe has, that we also have. It's that aligning oneself with that relationship. They remind us that we are more than animals driven by instinct. We are conscious beings who are made in this image of God, with the ability to create, choose, and love. And that, ultimately, is why evolution and consciousness does not disprove God, but instead they reveal Him. So that is what I have written. I'm kind of going to add a little bit to it. I don't think there's much to say, and this is kind of a long video already responding to what you guys commented, but just the very fact that we can go beyond evolution proves our existence of being a conscious being. And then the fact that there is order and logos in the universe, and that we also have that and we can interact with that, proves that there's a relational aspect. Because whatever is in the universe that brings forth creation, that brings forth movement, that brings forth life, that brings forth order, is also in us, that no other animal has, right? So prayer, fasting, meditation, all these, things that the Christian insistence has, is to build a relationship with that, to walk with that, right? I just want to leave you guys with this thought. I'm not going to get this word for word, but in Notes from Underground, a book by Dostoevsky, there's a part in the book where he mentions evolution and science, and he says something that's always struck me, that I've always thought about all the time, which is, if you convince man that he is merely a piano key, he's essentially saying, if you convince man that he's merely just a mixture of atoms, of evolutionary desires, of this machine, essentially, right? That we have no free will. We're just this being that was, crafted, and we have no free will, and we're just that evolutionarily designed thing. If you convince man that he is a piano key, he will do anything he can to disprove of that. He will even, cause destruction, hurt his neighbors, hurt himself, just to prove that he himself is not a piano key. And it's something that I think a lot about. Like, you can tell me whatever I am, that I'm this or that, right? This is where free will comes in. You can tell me that I'm this evolutionary thing, this evolutionary animal, and that all my conscious choices are just to fulfill my desires. But the very fact that I can go against that to the best of my ability to disprove that thing implies that there is a free will, implies that I am my own machine, right? My own thing, that I am conscious in relationships to the consciousness of the universe. I'm just going to leave you guys with that. That's all I have for you guys. Please leave comments. I loved all the comments in the last video. They were amazing. They were awesome. I love to engage in these discussions. I feel like we need more of it in our culture. And I'm going to keep rambling on here. But please, if you like this and you want to read what I actually wrote, what I read out loud, check check it in the description. It's just a Substack. It's completely free. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to put nothing, and you can read it, okay? And I'm gonna be writing more and more topics like this, more and more videos like this, all related on these topics, and any kinds of questions you have, those will be the first kinds of videos I make. But that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and Happy New Year.